In today's Pebble, I'm going to be talking with my friend Sheena Abraham, and we will be discussing how resetting your thoughts really just can change everything. And that really is at the heart of the Pebble in a lot of ways. How we think about each little thing really can make all the difference in the world. So I really hope you enjoy this episode. Hope you watch it all the way to the end. And if you do, please push that subscribe button. And yeah, enjoy. Thank you, guys. Hi, everyone. And I am so happy to have returning to the Pebble my good friend, Sheena Abraham. And if you remember her from last time, she talked about what was often sitting below our decisions. We focused mostly on money, but it really didn't have to be about money. It was what was holding us back. And today, I think we're going to talk more about, you know, making what is, an uncomfortable space or really a toxic space. And so and why we are no longer allowing that to be. And I'm just going to turn the floor to Sheena because she mentioned it to me this morning that it came up in conversation. I was like, yes, girl, let's go there because you get to a certain age and you're like, I am just not going to buy that anymore. So welcome, Sheena. I
Exactly.
am super happy that you are with us again today.
Great to be here. I always love chatting with you. I turned 40 in February, which was just a couple months ago, which is a big milestone, right? So and my friends are older than me. So I was in my 30s and I was thinking, I don't want to turn 40 and suddenly feel like, oh, I have something to prove, or oh no, my life's almost over. I didn't want to be scrambling. So in my 30s, I worked on fitness, emotional healing, nutrition. Like I tried to do everything that I was supposed to do so that when I turned 40, it would just be, okay, I'm walking into it. We're going here. And so that, yeah, anyway, the 30s were just this fun future thinking experimental phase. And then I hit 40. And then I went through this experience where I had all these, actually, it was a few months before I turned 40. I had all these sudden realizations where um, what I thought was real in the past really wasn't. I had been seeing everything through a child's eyes, and I revisited it and I saw it through adult eyes, and I said, my story about life was not accurate. Um, and I realized, and I had done so much self-awareness work, and but it didn't, there was one piece of information I was missing. And it was that I kept trying to do everything I was supposed to. And whenever things didn't work out or I didn't get much of a response, because I felt like now looking back, I realized I accomplished so many things and I never realized it because if I did something, I would get a reaction like, oh, okay, if you can do it, it must be easy. Or it was as if there was I wasn't one of those people that people were waiting to promote into a role, right? There was no representation or role for me to enter into to progress. It was just, I was there to help other people and do nitty gritty work. That's what I realized over time. So what that resulted in was deep, deep inside of me. And if you would have asked me, I would have said, no, no, no. But now I see deep, deep inside of me, it was self blame. It's like if you have a bunch of mattresses of your life and there's that pee on the bottom and you think there's nothing down there. I've cleaned those mattresses out. I realized I had been blaming myself and I would just keep doing more, learning more, just working harder, thinking, oh, yeah, I have a long way to go. But I just had this realization where I looked back and I said, I was doing pretty amazing and had no I I had no idea. There was just so much self-blame. So I've turned that and I've studied so much about brain science that I realized we're often blaming ourselves for things we would have no way of knowing. So I've made it my mission to free people from that prison in their minds of blaming themselves when if we look at how life works and how the brain works, there's a different story we can tell about the circumstance. And I'm not one to just say, don't look inward or don't take accountability, but we can take accountability and also look at reality and be compassionate with ourselves.
I so love that, and I so relate to that. I feel completely the same. And I wish I had even gotten it at 40, though I think I did begin that journey around my 40s. I look back and, I got into acting school, but I wasn't, the best actress in my acting school. So I was always working hardest to prove that I deserved to be there. I never would allow myself to believe that I deserved to be there because I knew other actors there had gotten into multiple schools. So because I felt like I didn't get into multiple schools, that somehow I didn't deserve to be there. So I was always trying to prove myself to them, to myself. And it was always that way with me, that there was always something that I felt like wasn't good enough. So you know if I got a blog job and I'd be there with all these big bloggers, I would always feel like, well, I was the baby blogger, or the not quite, like I was not quite good enough, and I had to work harder than everybody else and do things for free because I didn't feel like I deserved to be among them, even though I was asked to be there, just like with the acting school, the grad school. There was always this part of me that somehow didn't feel like I was enough, and that I had done enough, done anything even, And then I
Yeah.
looked back in the past and I was like, why did I do that to myself? Why did I not think that I was chosen? There were hundreds of other people who auditioned for that same acting school. Why did I think that I wasn't, being one of the 24 was enough? Why did I decide that somehow I was the 24th of the 24th, and therefore, no one said that to me. I put that in my
Yeah.
head. And even if I was the 24th of the 24th, I was in the 24, but that was never good enough for me. And I always felt like I had to jump through more hoops. Same with the blogging thing. Why did I decide that somehow I was like won the consolation prize or something like and oh, we've got to fill a spot and nobody else wanted it. She'll come,
Yeah.
but that was always always the bridesmaid, never the bride mentality that I had with everything I did for so many years. And
Yes.
it was coming from some kind of feeling of lack.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't until, I started my blog at 38, and it was about coming to appreciating what I had. And I think about my mid 40s, I started to appreciate that what I had was also me. It wasn't just that I was surrounded by great things. And when I started appreciating them, I got happier. But I finally came to the revelation that, oh, well, maybe they were lucky to have me too. But that took so long. And even now at 52, even just saying that to you still sits a little bit weird. Like, who
Yeah.
you who are
Can I
you
believe
talking
that?
to?
Yeah.
Yeah, like where's the lightning coming from? And I'm trying really hard to raise my daughter and both of my children differently, but I think especially in our society, raising a daughter that feels allowed to say, without it being a big thing, to be able to be empowered. Because I think when a woman does it, we're like, well, who is she? And
Yeah.
we should just be able to be like, no, I'm me. And so I
Yes.
totally hear what
Yeah.
you're saying.
So a lot of it, so for so much of my life, I feel like what I was doing was I was taking radical responsibility, which is a good thing. But I took it way too far without having the lenses to see the vastness of the social conditioning and the grooming that happens to girls and women. I mean, there are so many, we keep looking in the world for solutions to our problems, but a lot of the problems are so invisible. We keep solving the wrong problem, but it's really the ones we can't see, that subtle, tiny conditioning, right? And so the way I am trying to support people I know and make the world a better place is through tiny things like being present with people, um, reorienting them to see their value and what they bring to the table, and helping people realize situations where they're being expected to know things they couldn't know, or they're thinking they're supposed to be perfect the first time around, and anything less is a problem. Um, and that's why people give up. People give up before they get very far because of that conditioning. So I want people to know, like, if you just keep moving and don't judge yourself. Expect that everything, you're not going to be that great when you start something, but you're going to keep getting better. I think it's just that past line of reasoning from a long time ago when people thought you're either born with it or you're not. You either have it or you don't. Like that's just a poison that's still there. And we're so it makes us judge ourselves all the time and waste capacity that needs to be used toward growing and healing.
I love that. I love that. And is that the work that you do as well? It sounds like you do that, just carry that in your daily life, that talk about being present, but
Yeah.
as well as now that you're doing that in your work, is that what you focus on?
I don't focus on it, but you know how it shows up in my work? Like the core of my work, it creating copy that sells products and services, the core of it is really truly listening, hearing what people are saying and what they're feeling that's often unheard and unexpressed, and being able to help a business express that thought and connect with people authentically.
That is awesome. I was saying to someone the other day that I think our society is too focused on celebrating just one kind of winner type thing, the
Yes.
general or whatever. And unfortunately, I feel like now we have rooms and rooms full of generals, and so nobody's doing the work in a
Yeah.
lot of boardrooms, a lot of other, and you need all sorts of people to make things work, and listening is a huge part of that. And I have said more than once, I know I'm not a general or leader or captain or whatever the word you want to say. It doesn't mean I don't have leadership qualities. I know I do, but I also have them enough to know what I'm good at. I am great support staff. I'm a terrific cheerleader. You tell me where we're going, I will pick up the paddle and I will get us there. And it, I think we need to cherish that more, groom
Yes.
that more, and not in the way like you were talking about, in the toxic way, where
When
it's
you
that
devalue it.
right, but more, why don't we celebrate and bring up people in every way that they are good, which is a lot about what I try to do with the Pebble. Everybody has something they're amazing at. And I think we, like I said, devalue so many of those different positions. Whereas if we just let flowers bloom where they bloom
Yeah.
and as they are, not only would individuals be happier, but I think we'd have so many different positions filled naturally that supported each other, right? The garden would be full. And it sounds like in some ways that's what you do with businesses, and it's also what you're doing in your personal life by just listening and bringing out that best in what they do.
Yeah, what you're saying reminds me of this. I walk my dog in the morning and I saw everywhere there's lawns with this green St. Augustine grass. And now I see these lawns because it's springtime. Oh, and there's these beautiful purple wildflowers and yellow dandelions, just gorgeous little flowers growing in the grass. And I know those flowers are edible. People in the past would forage. Like these are beautiful resources for us. They make the lawn look so much better, but we've been conditioned to think, okay, what weed killer do I buy to kill those weeds? We call them weeds, you know? So I just feel like so much of that type of thinking is pervasive where we have something beautiful, edible, and we want to get rid of it for something like sterile, plain
Right.
vanilla.
I remember there was an email back before we did memes on Facebook and Instagram. People used to send around the emails with that were basically memes. They were like strips of jokes and funny things, and you'd forward the email. And eventually it would be like forwarded, 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 have like 12 of the little arrow things. But there was one that was about what must God think that we we cut down the grass that he gives us, and then we go through all this effort to grow it where it doesn't grow and such like that. And that was one of the things, like he gives us flowers and we
Yeah.
cut them down and then we but you're
Oh
right.
yeah, I could rant about this. Why do we have oak trees and not fruit trees in our front yard? Oak trees messing up our foundation. But I digress.
Well, actually in our front yard during the spring, we don't mow it. We let the flowers grow until they die and then we mow because I do like the wildflowers.
Yeah, it's beautiful, but it just doesn't fit the mold. So part of what I want to do for my customers and just in life is help people realize who built this mold you're trying to fit into. Like they didn't account for you when they designed this system. This is all pretend. We can make something different.
I am so with you. Exactly. And much of the system, and especially again as a woman, was was molded without us in mind in so many little and big ways. Heck, they just said it just came out that the dummies for car crashes, they're just small male dummies, that
Yeah.
they're finally
Yes.
getting around to actually having them created
For
differently
women.
for women because our insides are in different places that they never accounted for that. and
Mhm.
and it was like, oh really, that's news to you. Your whole job is to simulate bodies, and it just occurred to you that women's bodies and men's bodies are different. And it's the same thing with people in general, male, female, aside, just as individuals, we aren't pegs. We aren't cut to be the same over and over and over. And that individuality should be our superpower. So I love that you're out there saying, nope, this system, it didn't account for you. So let's find what does account for you and work for you.
Yeah, man, that example you brought up reminded me, even in health and fitness and nutrition, there are like a teeny tiny percent of studies that take women into account. I mean, it's almost all men, or even different countries. So a lot of what we're blaming ourselves for in health and fitness, why aren't I this? Why aren't I that? Well, where did that expectation come from? And who were those studies done on? They weren't done on people like you. So I think I really am excited about the next generation coming up because they don't have the pressure, of that a lot of us had. to conform or to just go along to get along. I mean, it's almost like they can see the world fresh and they have the tools and resources to do what works, not just what's been done before.
I agree. I see in both my daughter and my son many of the preconceived notions that I didn't even know were preconceived notions. They were just quote unquote normal until they weren't, till the expectation of normal was questioned during my lifetime. There is no such thing for them. Um, and I love that. I absolutely love that. I'm glad those challenges were made and knocked down, and they've lived and grown up with so many of those cultural norms just gone by the time that they went to school, because they don't have expectations they shouldn't. They have gone to school where children of different learning and physical needs were in their classrooms every day. They have had children whose parents were of diverse cultural backgrounds, diverse marriaging, and even non-binary. Like all of
Mhm.
those things were not a thought for them. They were just there. They weren't a question. They weren't like, from kindergarten on, that's been present in a way
Yeah.
that it was just there. So it wasn't well, why, what, it was just there. So it's their norm.
Yeah. I think we used to hide people who didn't fit what was normal. So we didn't have to have any discomfort around accommodating or being with them, living life with them. So I love that for your kids, they see everybody and this is just what we do.
I agree. And that's why it drives me crazy when people are like, well, this is new. No, it's not new. It's new to you because you were denied knowing it. I
Yes.
don't think of it as you were forced to know it. I think you were denied
You had
knowing.
the luxury of not having to.
But I think it's a beauty that my children have been exposed to so many different people from such a young age that they don't see people differently because of anything relational or external. They look to know who a person is based on who they are, not what they are.
Yeah.
So and I'm glad for that. And it doesn't make it perfect. It doesn't mean they're fixed or they're never going to say inappropriate things
Process.
or not like someone for something stupid. It's not like bullies stopped existing. I'm not trying to say we suddenly are, but I think that they have a better place to start from.
Yeah. We all have blind spots and it's just being open to exploring and seeing them. Whereas before I think we would say, what blind spots? What are you talking
Exactly.
about?
Well, my mom and I had a conversation because I grew up in the South, and I have learned things that I was taught simply wrongly in history, just simply taught wrong history that I would have never known. So therefore, I was carrying incorrect thoughts that shaped the way I viewed the world. So how could I not be viewing people differently and
Yeah.
not with an ill heart?
Even with the headlines, even with the media, like even if you could be a very good person, very kind, but we are all subject to absorbing what is in the atmosphere, right? So nobody's immune from checking themselves and rethinking, what is that thing I was taught when I was 5 that I never questioned that needs to be
The
questioned?
greatest lesson I have learned in the last 10 years, racism, sexism, any ism is not directly linked to whether or not you're a good person. And I think that is still something that some people are struggling with. And I get that because that's what we were raised to believe. If you're a good person, you can't be that. And it's a
Yes.
hard thing to fathom. I don't have hate in my heart. How could I be? Because it's a learned thing. It's something it's something deep in the back of your brain, right?
We're just taught
It's
not to see it.
right. And it's a knee-jerk thing that affects the way that you relate at a deeper level than you're conscious of. And to
Yes.
accept that is really difficult. And so I think that's about evolving. I think that's about what you and I have been talking about. And I hope and believe I'm still growing. I don't think I'm totally, fixed. I still, I'm sure that I will make mistakes, but I hope that we are getting beyond the cancel culture and such that didn't allow for growth and still learning and getting to the point that we get that, you know, people didn't always do everything on purpose. It wasn't for lots and lots of people, it was ignorance or, and true ignorance, not stupidity, but genuine, the meaning of ignorance, which is they didn't know. And that if something is done from ignorance, then knowledge is the greatest cure, right? And that as we grow and evolve, we can do better.
Yeah, and I think I'm in this season of acknowledging things that are harmful and how it affects people, so we can move on to healing and recovery. And we can't
Amen.
rush to healing and recovery without like acknowledging the depth of how
Yes,
someone was hurt, like just really seeing that. Because if we don't, because if we don't see that, it affects all of us. We're all just going to keep doing the wrong things, but in different forms, right? Like just say, oh, was that wrong? Okay, well, I'm going to go do it a different way here, right? It's all conscious
agreed.
and subconscious.
It's
So
just like
yeah,
you teach your child when they do something wrong and they go, sorry, and you're like, no, you're not sorry unless you're not going to do it again. Sorry
yeah,
is about, okay, what are you sorry for? Like, we have to learn and acknowledge what it is that was done wrong. But then we do have to find a place where we can move on. But I absolutely agree. We can't just be like, okay, because I
yeah.
do think that there is a group that would like to just continue to dust, and I think that's what got us a lot to where we were, which
Yeah. So
is
I think it just all comes back to seeing each other, hearing each other, um, and realizing we can live life differently. So we're all living into our purpose. We all have so much capacity, so much potential. And it's about helping each other keep growing into that because everything we do affects everybody around us, right? Having that awareness. I've noticed like when I traveled around the world, like different places like Mexico or parts of India or New Zealand, and I see people's relationship to the land and to each other, and awareness of how just there's a community and everybody has a role, and even there's a sense of how is the soil, how are the plants, like we're all an ecosystem. Um, I like that way of thinking because you kind of what you were saying earlier, right? We're there's this subculture of where success looks like this, right? It's there's just a certain way success looks like, but that's I think we're entering an era where we're realizing, oh, there's so many ways to be successful where we're all in this together. We're seeing where we've been hurt, we're seeing where we've made mistakes or had blind spots, and we're healing and growing, and just making the world better. As cliche as that sounds,
It's
I
not
truly believe that.
cliche. You couldn't have brought it to a better spot. That was beautiful because that's exactly why I'm doing this. That's exactly why I'm having these conversations. It's exactly what the Pebble's about because it is not cliche to say we're making the world better. So that was awesome, Sheena. That was the perfect place to bring it to. So thank you again for being on the show. It means a lot to me. And my audience, I hope you will check out Carved Lemon Coaching and my friend Sheena Abraham. And I think she's a wonderful coach, and I'm very proud to know her. So thank you very much.
Thanks,
And
Tracy.
thank you, and tune in for another episode soon.